Hello, everyone. Your attention, please. My name is Min Yen, but everyone just calls me Min, like the minimum function. That's how you remember. And I'm pleased to introduce and open our workshop on education and social science technologies, or WEST. This was a program that we conceived with the help of Juan, who's sitting in the back, as an initiative that the Department of Computer Science at NUS had sponsored as one of 2 summer workshops that we wanted to hold. And so this particular workshop is a collaboration with another institute at NUS called the NUS Institute of Application of Learning Science and Educational Technologies, which is a mouthful, so we just call it ALSET. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. So first, welcome to Singapore. This is one of the taglines that we have in this country, the world's first smart nation. And part of being smart is, of course, education. And so that's why we put it here. And as I said, why we are organizing this workshop is because the School of Computing is strategically trying to organize a set of workshops every year on strategic key priorities in Singapore. And we thought education would be a good place to start out because of certain constraints within in the university at NUS. So one thing, in NUS, we have both research faculty as well as educator faculty, which is akin to lecturers in the UK system. So for people on the educator track, promotion and tenure is always a little bit of a thornier issue, because most faculties understand how to do promotion and tenure for research faculty as judged by, for example, publications. But for people who are concentrated on pedagogy, that is a little bit more difficult. Okay, so this workshop is in fact appealing towards our educational faculty, and I see a number of them in the back. We are holding this so that you can get some network with the leaders in this area worldwide. Okay, and it's also a chance for us to introduce the Institute of ALSET, which is a new unit just set up earlier last year, but getting to a small steady state at the mid of this year, so right now. So I want to give you a little bit of overview for both of these institutes. So the host unit is the School of Computing. Our faculty strength right now is about 105 faculty. That's split over 2 different departments. This is a fairly big unit. We have a student population of over 30,000 on campus, of which 2,000 are in the School of Computing. And ALSET, as I said, is a new institution that's based at the provost level, so reporting directly to the provost, unlike a lot of universities. It's going to centralize a lot of the student data that we have collected in various units and make them transparent and organized such that researchers can get at them. Okay, so especially if you happen to be a faculty member teaching a course and you want to pilot an intervention and find out what type of outcomes they produce and help to inform fellow people in pedagogy and learning sciences about your findings, this is one method of doing it. And as part of this workshop, we are hoping to showcase to you why, as a faculty member, you should be partnering with ALSET to chase research grants outside. So I won't go into detail a lot about that, but tomorrow when we open for the research part of the workshop, I'll cover the various sets of institutes and initiatives in Singapore that make funding available for tertiary, secondary, and primary school education. So one of the challenges that we're looking at in piloting here is to create more research on how learners learn, which is the mission of ALSET. So later on in the afternoon, we'll have a kickoff of the second EdTech Challenge at NUS, which will feature mostly students, teams trying to think about how education in the university will change 5 years from now. So we've asked them to take that visionary perspective and cast some thoughts onto that. So one thing I want to point out is that with the ALSET unit, we are trying to make available this very large data lake that we have on the left side of the chart. which is, again, as I said, an amalgam of data from all university units where we've cut most of the bureaucracy away. And so primary investigators will have to apply just to ALSET to get permission to access the data, and we will do all of the running in-house to cut the red tape for you. Okay, so what does a data lake mean? It just basically means we put in all of the collection of data. So it will include registrar data about what students collect, right? It might also encompass, it will encompass data from a learning management system. So those of you at NUS will know IVLE is our own in-house management system. It will also encompass mobility data. So I think a number of researchers are interested in Wi-Fi connections that come from students when they are on the buses or in campus. What are people surfing? What sites are they looking at? Those type of information will also be incorporated into our data lake. And then, of course, survey and student feedback data that we normally get as understanding the student outcomes from each course. Okay. And then where does it apply to? Well, first and foremost, it has to help the students. So that's the mission of ALSET, is to help learners learn. So we want to plow all of this back into helping students enable their course selection, their study habits, thinking about their motivation, but also to help faculty, right? Because faculty need to innovate in their coursework and delivery and keep up with the trends of how technology should enhance learning. And finally, policy, right? The policy about how to instrument courses, how to recommend courses, and to get students to interact, whether there are certain delivery systems, whether 2-hour lectures or 3-hour lectures are more useful or not. And all of this will be arrayed on student dashboards, right? For both faculty and students to make available so that they can be useful in making decisions that will impact their lives, right? So this is ALSET's data lake as a whole, and you probably recognize the scenery here. That is Singapore's downtown, right? And I think the important thing about this is this type of institution is really something that the data lake is something we can assemble here in Singapore. Is a strategic advantage of being in a centralized autocracy, where we have the provost as taking the major lead on this initiative. So that will be all the data that we know that we're going to put into the data lake, but we also want to know from all of you sitting in the audience, what's missing from this picture? There's other data that's out there. Is it worthwhile collecting that data such that we can enable better interventions or better analytics that can help our students and our faculty and inform policy better? Okay, so we'll be asking you about this question throughout the entire symposium, and the panel on Friday will also hopefully feature questions from you to our international speakers to think about these issues. So here we are. We're at the IQ building. And just to give you an idea of what's going on today, these are the venues that we have. So when you came in on the first floor, there's an auditorium in the gold color. You probably came in from somewhere over here and took the lifts up. But if you go this direction, you'll be at the IQ auditorium. We have a number of tutorials that will be held in this venue, including the deep learning and the natural language tutorial will be here, as well as those of you who are interested in the computational social science cluster. The tutorial led by Tuan will be there in the afternoon. But for the most part, most of our educational technology and learning science tutorials are going to be here, either in this classroom, the STMI classroom, which is this green box here, as well as the Kai Executive Training Classroom, which is just a couple steps down the hallway. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joseph to talk a bit about the schedule for today.
Okay, so, hi, everyone. So I'm a new assistant professor in information systems. Okay. So I'm a new assistant professor in information systems and analytics, so inside the School of Computing, and Nijan has included me in co-organizing. And so just in terms of knowing where to go or what's kind of going on, so there's this URL, tiny.cc /WESST. You can plug it into your phone or your computer, and that always pulls up the most recent schedule. And that's where you can see directions to rooms, which are kindly added by our student volunteers, as well as their links to live streams and recordings. So if you want to share with colleagues, or if you miss a talk and you want to check it out, we've actually got YouTube links on the schedule. You can just click on it to either see live or watch it later. In terms of thinking about the sort of overall structure, so today there are tutorials. Is the sound okay or step away? Okay. So today there are tutorials, and this is a mix of tutorials by our keynote speakers. So maybe just Carolyn Rose, Dragan Gasovic, John Stamper, and Shang Hu. And we also wanted to kind of provide an opportunity for School of Computing students and others more generally to get exposure to different methods they might not otherwise. So we have an opening session, and then next is going to be, as I mentioned, all these things are live streamed and recorded, so you can see them later. And some of the student volunteers are also adding slides as well. So you can check everything out and share it with other people. And maybe just to identify student volunteers, so Yumen, Jeffrey, and who else is here? Abdullah. And there are two other people, so if you have questions, you can ask them for advice or help. And I think many of the other students who are here today are probably happy to help and give suggestions too. Then John Stamper is going to talk about LearnSphere and Data Shop. So Min mentioned this data lake, which is a really unique resource. And John's worked on many grants and big initiatives with respect to what are tools that you can use to import this data and analyze it in different ways, but actually you can close the loop between data about what students are doing and then knowing what knowledge they have and how to improve it. There's also a tutorial on basics of deep learning by people from Min's group, Animation Prasad and Muthu. Oh, great, you guys are there. Okay, Animation Muthu. And then I'm going to give a presentation. The next session, 11:30, I'm going to give tutorials on how do you leverage technology for collaborative, dynamic, personalized experimentation. So that's a combination of psychology, technology design, and machine learning. Then Tuan is going to talk about econometrics and social science methods. And we've also got work on sentiment analysis on social media. So Tuan, that's Tuan back there. And is Wen Fiang Li here? Okay, but they'll be there in the room once you show up. Then we've got lunch. And then the second last set of tutorials from Data Design and Dynamic Support for Collaborative Learning by Carolyn Rose, so Law and Language Technologies. Then Tuan's going to keep on going on the social science track. And then Dragan Gasovic is going to talk about learning analytics, data policy, and adoption. And so you can kind of see the rooms, they're all listed there. And you can also find them on that link, tinylcc/WESST. Or ask the people maybe at the registration desk or otherwise. And then to kind of finally wrap up, we'll have one tutorial by Shang Hu on auto tutor. So implementation, conversational-based intelligent tutoring system. So this is tools that they've built to allow anyone to really build intelligent tutoring systems where students might solve a problem, but you can actually then ask questions and have a natural language processing on the back end so there can be a bit of a conversation about solving these. And then we're going to close off. And so tomorrow, we're actually not going to be here. We're going to be over at the School of Computing, and that's when we're going to have the full 2 days of research talks. There's also the EdTech Challenge. So, Min, do you want to say anything about that?
Okay, so I don't know how many of you are here for the EdTech Challenge. Hands? Okay, yeah, I think most of them will be coming for this afternoon. So if you are interested to hear more about what we're doing for the EdTech Challenge, you should come to that session. Basically, Tuan's group has created some simulated data that has the data schema that we are having in ALSET's data lake. So you can play around with that data to actually operationalize your solutions for that. And I think those of you who are interested in the challenge will also probably want to go to Tuan's tutorial on the CSS cluster, because basically in the computational social science side, they receive a lot of data sets from businesses. And of course, businesses do not like their data leaking out. So basically all of their data has to reside on a ring-fenced fence post. I don't know if I'm getting all my language wrong today, but protected barrier system where you can execute queries and do the interventions and analysis just on the data cluster without exporting that. So I think this is a really good tutorial by Tuan's group if you're interested in in doing the data challenge, please go to that as well as the kickoff. So the kickoff will have its own opening ceremony later on. I finished the slides for that this morning. Yay. So we'll see how that goes in the afternoon. So there's no tutorial closing session today. So after 6 o'clock, we're dismissed, right? And then tomorrow morning, again, we'll be starting on the other venue, which is at LT19, which is on closer to the business school side of things. So we hope to see you all there. Just one more note, just to make sure that we're all clear about this. We're on the third floor of IQ, the right side of this chart, and the most important facilities are the restrooms. So you just have to swing by the Kai classroom over there, and the restrooms are on that side. So with that, I'd like to close our opening session, and then we'll break into our tutorials. Again, for the first session, we have Tutoring and Data Shop, which will be right in this room, and the basics of deep learning by Animesh and Mutu, which will be downstairs in the IQ auditorium. You have to take a lift downstairs to go there, okay? All right, thank you so much.